morning, everybody. Stephanie Brown here with Cambio in the community, checking out the local driving range here in Burlington, Ontario. Today, we are meeting with our event industry expert, Ashlee Livingstone, the CEO, that's Chief Engagement Officer of Our Forté. Ashlee, do you want to join me over here?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you for getting out on the green with us today and discussing some of the event trends that are going on. My first and foremost question, of course, I'm sure many of the viewers watching this would agree, is what are the event trends that are currently happening out there? And do you feel like organizations are moving back towards more traditional events?
Yeah, I think that it's kind of nice to see events coming back live and in person. So that is definitely something we're starting to see. And, you know, golf has been resurrected. I like to say that silent auctions and golf tournaments seem to have come back to life because of COVID, and because they were so easy to do, and they were able to be done online using platforms like Cambio.
Like Cambio, yes, we have had a surplus, a huge surge of golf tournaments and auctions. And my favorite part about the Cambio platform for that concept is the users are making up what fits for them.
Yeah.
So your golf tournament is not a one-size-fits-all event. It's what your users and supporters and sponsors are going to use and want, and that's really, really helpful to hear that we're getting back towards those old schools.
Yeah. So the nice thing, you know, golf tournaments gets people out, and it keeps people in smaller groups as well, which I think is one of those lessons from COVID. People are happy to be out on the golf course because they can stay in there foursome or even two people. You can share a cart with someone, and people seem to be comfortable with that. I would also say that a lot of fundraising galas, award ceremonies, those things I am seeing coming back. And I'm seeing a mix of small tables and people just going right back to tables of 8 or 10 again.
Wonderful.
So it really depends on the organization, I think.
So changing directions just a little bit here, it's really great to hear that in-person events are coming back, but I'd like to just unpack a little bit more about hybrid events and whether you think hybrid events are a thing that are maybe going to stick around, or is it something that we might just see kind of fizzle off into the history books? And if you do use a hybrid event, what are those really important pieces to make sure that you're getting the best engagement out of your audience?
Yes. So I'll start with the first question about our hybrid events thing. And I really do see the benefit of hybrid events. The COVID gave us this opportunity to shift virtual, and in doing so, we were able to actually expand our reach. So, for instance, one of my clients was the YWCA of Hamilton, and their Women of Distinction Awards going virtual. We had an international audience because we were celebrating women, and their people, their supporters wanted to be online and watch them potentially win an award. So we had folks tuning in from the Philippines, from Vancouver, from Halifax, from different places in the States. So the nice part about hybrid or virtual is that you can actually reach more people. And if you are doing something in person again, having that element of people being able to tune in and watch really makes it accessible to more people.
Yeah.
And there is a way to do it.
And I believe I attended that, or at least one of their virtual events, and I did not realize I was part of an international audience.
Yes.
But that's fantastic. Yeah. They had a great host, too.
Yes, they
Give
did.
that little plug as well.
But so how to really use the hybrid format is you need to almost plan, and I know this is probably going to scare a lot of people, so take it with a grain of salt. It doesn't have to be that scary. Almost 2 events. So you need to plan your in-person event. And then when you go live with your broadcast, so almost think about TV, right? Think about the Oscars. They have an in-person event, and we've always just tuned in to the awards ceremony. So if you have a stage show where you have entertainment or you are featuring what the organization's about, that's a good time to kind of go live. We don't need people at home watching people sit down and eat 3-course meals, right? That's not fun for them. But you can tune in, you know, the show starts at 7 or 8 p.m. and you go live. And then you almost have 2 different shows, you know, running concurrently.
Ah, okay. Yes, I could see how that would work and build up that engagement and excitement.
Yeah, and then you still have the opportunity for online bidding, for online fund a need, for online auction, and people at home and in person can both participate.
Wonderful. That's a great take back. Thank you. So while planning events, I will fully confess, event planning is not my forte. It's her forte. Pun intended there. Yeah. As a fundraiser, though, I know it is undoubtedly one of the easiest and most satisfying ways to connect with your supporters and your people and just check in and get to know a little bit more about them. And so engagement is really where all of our heads go to, just making sure that we're driving that mission forward message and getting people the chance to learn in, tune in. And so, yeah, having those hybrid audiences can be really, really powerful.
Yeah. Especially if you have a national or international audience, depending on what type of organization you are. If you have that opportunity to connect people remotely, I think it's a brilliant way to do it.
Mm-hmm. So focusing more now on a little bit more of the planning elements, because like you said, you are sort of planning almost like a dual event here. So what are the risk mitigation things that people can take into account when they're planning an event?
Yeah, so I think we have to almost go back to basics, right? So not to say forget the last 2 years, because there are some really awesome lessons that came out of it. But I do feel that somewhere along the lines, we've let our relationships slip a little bit. And whether that's because we couldn't do face-to-face things like this, or we didn't have an event where we really got to work the room or bring people in, that engagement piece, a lot of organizations kind of went dark and didn't do too much. Yeah. And I fully understand, why that may have been a reason for some. I think if you're starting to consider doing an event again, before you just hop right back in and, our gala's back on, we're going to do it the exact same way we've always done it because we can, you need to spend some time investing in those relationships. So build a longer runway than maybe you had before. Mm-hmm. And re-engaging your sponsors, re-engaging your volunteers, re-engaging your event attendees. Like, who is still interested? What have they been up to the last couple of years if you haven't been in touch with them? And if you have, still doing some things to kind of remind them that the event's coming, or just build in more of a runway for engagement purposes. Yeah. Don't just send out a save the date and think everyone's going to come back to your event.
It's very fair, very important. I think COVID has taught us many, many things. What would you say are your favorite COVID takeaways from the event planning perspective? Those lessons that you learned that you think, I am never going to forget that one because it was just so light bulb moment for you.
I think the importance of a plan B is really...
And a C, maybe a D.
Yeah. But having backup plans, right? We're so used to just templating our events, and I have never been a fan of that. Yeah. And COVID really highlighted why you need to be flexible. And even as a planner, I know a lot of people think events organizers are very rigid, and you have to embrace flexibility, and you have to be willing to change. So have a plan B, be willing to change. So that's kind of the next part is shake things up. Yeah, right? COVID gave us a really great excuse for many organizations to actually just cancel the event that they'd always wanted to cancel. And those of you watching who did that, you know what I'm talking about. That event that you've always had to do because your board just loved it, or the volunteers.
The way we've always done it.
Yeah, yep. You got to stop. Yeah. And you had to change and keep changing, keep evolving, keep being innovative. I think that's really what COVID gave us permission to do. And understand that there are more than one way to engage your audience and spread the word and raise money. Events, I truly believe that they're a great way to share experiences. And when you have shared experiences, you have those shared memories, and you're connected. But there is more than one way, right? There are lunch meetings, there are coffee dates, there are hitting the driving range, even if you don't know what you're doing.
Even if you don't know what you're doing.
It's still just
full disclaimer, neither one of us are golfers.
No,
this is purely a prop. No.
But be creative. Be creative on how you engage with people, because that matters more.
Yeah.
And when people feel seen, heard, and valued and appreciated by your organization, that's loyalty right there.
Mm-hmm. And I think that goes back to fundraising as well. Go back to the basics. It is about people. It is about building those relationships. And my favorite part about COVID, the lesson that I will take away is you have a fantastic opportunity and an excuse, really, to learn stories and to shift the format of events where you had to focus on talking as opposed to flashy engagements, which are also entertaining. But it was some of the stories that I heard coming out of COVID were absolutely just mind-boggling. And I don't think that they would have come out if we hadn't all had that jarring experience to begin with. Yeah.
And as the wind picks up. You know, the storytelling piece of all of that is it reminds us all that we're human. So again, a lot of organizations before COVID definitely like to be wrapped up in the theme of their event. You know, what's our theme? And really at the end of the day, your theme is whatever organization you're raising money for. Yeah. And the stories and the impact that you make for them. So stay focused on that. You know, COVID kind of helped us get away from themes and really focus in on impact and, you know, who's doing what for organizations. And that was really
impact
special.
All the way. Impact.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank Ashlee so much for sharing her knowledge and expertise with us. It's invaluable, and it is so encouraging to see how two sides of the same coin can come together, the fundraiser, the event planner.
Yeah.
And like you said, it is about impact and that connection that we are all looking forward to building with each other. So thank you so much for joining me
Thanks for
today.
having me. It's been fun.